Okay, so when you think of epic opera, you probably think of Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle, right? This massive, sprawling story of gods, dwarves, and heroes. But what if it's more than just an old story? What if it's actually a kind of psychological blueprint for our own lives, right now? That's what we're going to do. We're diving deep into this epic, but we're going to reread it through the supercritical eyes of his one-time buddy, Friedrich Nietzsche.
This one line, it changes everything. It tells us that the twilight of the gods, this huge catastrophic ending, well, it's not a tragedy at all. Nope. It's a necessary purification. It's the moment the slate gets wiped clean so humanity can finally step up and create its own values.
All right, here's the game plan. First, we'll look at myth as a kind of dynamic strategy. Then, we're going to diagnose the spiritual sickness at the heart of the whole story. We'll meet let's call him the flawed hero who breaks the world. And then we'll see the rise of the real hero, the self-made individual. After that, we'll get into the big falling out between Wagner and Nietzsche. And then, and this is the cool part, we're going to hold this ancient mirror up to our own digital world. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, so first up, myth as a blueprint. And look, we're not treating this story like some dusty old thing in a museum. Not at all. We're looking at it as a living, breathing guide, a kind of map for navigating that timeless conflict between the morality that society shoves on us and the power that we feel growing inside of us.
So if you look at it this way, the whole four-opera epic, it's really a journey. It's a story about escaping this corrupt, rigid world order, one that's all tangled up in laws and contracts, and moving towards this totally radical freedom of becoming the author of your own life.
So, where does this journey start? Well, it starts by facing the core problem, the spiritual illness that's really driving this whole drama, the desire for ownership. And man, it's a sickness that infects everyone who even gets near the ring, from the smallest dwarf all the way up to the king of the gods.
And that, of course, brings us to the ring. You see, it's not just some magic prize to be won, it's a curse. It's a total lie. It's this illusion that you can control the world without it costing you your own soul. And believe me, the price is steep. I mean, it's devastatingly high. You've got the dwarf Alberich, who literally gives up love, trading all that human warmth for cold, hard tyranny. But it's not just him. The gods pay too. They start to decay, relying on cheap tricks and debts instead of their own divine power. At the end of the day, the ultimate cost for every single character is their soul. This line just nails Wotan's whole tragedy. He's supposed to be this philosopher king, right? But he builds his incredible fortress, Valhalla, basically on credit. He uses a legal loophole to cheat the giants who built it, and in doing that, poof, he traps himself in the very system of laws he created. He mortgages his own godhood for a little bit of worldly power.
And this is a really stark warning. Wotan famously sacrifices his eye to gain wisdom, but this isn't some noble act. No, it's a huge red flag. It shows he's willing to do anything to hold on to his compromised power, even if, eventually, it's someone else who has to pay the price. So, how in the world do you break a system that's built on such a rotten foundation?
Well, you unleash a force of nature that doesn't even know the rules exist. And that's where Siegfried comes in. He is not your typical hero. Think of him more like an unconscious, amoral catalyst, the wrecking ball needed to shatter this old, decaying world.
Yeah, Siegfried is a total paradox. He's basically pure nature, right? Just acting on instinct. He smashes Wotan's spear, the very symbol of law, just because he doesn't even recognize its authority. But here's the catch. His greatest strength, that he's afraid of nothing, is also his fatal weakness. It's a kind of blindness, really. It lets weaker, smarter people manipulate him. He's a demolition crew, not an architect.
That's exactly it. Siegfried is the guy you need to tear it all down. He can break the ring's spell, but like this quote says, he has zero understanding of the value of the world he's destroying. He's the bridge to the future, sure, but you can't let him be the one to design it. That job, that falls to someone who actually gets what's at stake. And that, finally, brings us to Brunhilde. And let me tell you, she is the true hero of this whole psychological drama. Her journey is all about conscious evolution, going from just a pawn of divine will to the absolute highest expression of a self-creating person.
I mean, her transformation is just, wow, breathtaking. She starts out as just an extension of her dad, Wotan. But then she defies his order, and she's not doing it out of pity, which in Nietzsche's world is a pretty weak, decadent emotion. No, she does it because she recognizes a higher nobility. She chooses life over some abstract law. And her punishment, well, that's just the price of her own evolution. It's through that fire that she becomes her own person.
Now, this is a totally radical way to look at Voshin's anger. He's not just mad at her for disobeying. He punishes her because she succeeded where he failed. She actually achieved the vision that he was too tangled up in his own contracts to ever realize. It's a deep, almost loving acknowledgement that she has become superior.
Okay, so this brings us to the main event, the philosophical showdown, the great split between Wagner the composer and Nietzsche the philosopher. They both looked at the same epic ending, the Götterdämmerung, the twilight of the gods, and they saw two completely, totally different things.
And the contrast couldn't be more stark. You see, Wagner, especially later in his life, was all about redemption through sacrifice, giving things up. Nietzsche saw that and called it a narcotic for a sick, dying culture. Nietzsche wanted the exact opposite, a purification. For him, the world doesn't need to be redeemed. It needs to be cleansed of all those old, sick values, to make room for a noble, life-affirming future. It's about saying yes to life, not no.
So, okay, a 150-year-old opera, a dead philosopher. What does any of this have to do with us today? Well, as it turns out, everything. This ancient myth becomes a seriously chilling mirror for our own digital age.
Get ready, because the parallels here are pretty stunning. Woden, he's the god of the machine, a prisoner of the very algorithms he created. The ring of power? That's the digital ring of data and Chrome. The act of renouncing your will? That's no longer a monk's vow. It's you clicking I agree on the user agreement. And Siegfried, the hero who fears nothing? He's us, the blonde beast of the screen, signing away our freedom for access, never ever reading the contract.
And this line just perfectly captures the bargain we make every single day. We trade our own agency, our will to power, for what? Convenience, a frictionless life. But it's a life that's chillingly described as a permanent, comfortable death. A life without struggle, sure, but also a life completely drained of real meaning.
And so, we're left with the exact same choice that the ring cycle throws at us. Do we choose the comfortable prison of this rationalized world, this digital Valhalla built on user agreements and data? Or do we, like Brunhilde, decide to face the fire, to embrace the raw, the dangerous, the terrifying, and the absolutely magnificent freedom of creating our own existence? The choice, now just as it was then, is ours.